everyone, and welcome back to a new video, y'all. I apologize, for the past like 2 videos I haven't been at my good microphone, but I'm back. I'm back. And welcome back to Wind Waker Unflooded, y'all. It's a pleasure. I mean that. Working on this project, I do it because it's a passion project, because I'm just here to have fun. I'm here to have fun, and I hope that y'all have fun watching it. It's not that serious, just a little fun. And we can take it seriously, and we can have serious discussions about the world building and lore and timeline of Zelda and the geography, and have our serious theories, and we can get serious. But, excuse me, I don't even know what I'm trying to say. I'm just excited to be with you again, and to show off the current progress on the Great Plateau. As I've talked about before, I've started working on the Great Plateau within the world and art style of the Wind Waker. If y'all don't know, that's what we're doing here on Wind Waker Unflooded. We are remodeling Hyrule as a 3D modeling fan art project in the art style and world of The Legend of Zelda, the Wind Waker, because of course we could never explore Hyrule truly in the game, but we're told that there was a world beneath the ocean. And I've always wanted to see what Hyrule would look like in that art style. I've always wanted to, and it felt like the game was teasing us that we couldn't. And even though we've gotten to explore Hyrule since in games like Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild, it's still like I've craved being able to see Hyrule in this unique and beautiful art style from The Legend of Zelda, the Wind Waker. So that's what we're doing on this YouTube channel, in this video series. That's what the project is about. Timeline-wise, I'm setting this as if it is Hyrule right before the Great Flood in the prologue of the Wind Waker. So I hope that answers all of your questions. It's just a 3D modeling fan art project. And yeah, welcome to Wind Waker Unflooded. But yeah, the Great Plateau. Because this is something that like I've based this project off of a map by Jacob Zachery. Link in the description to the original map on DeviantArt. And I've like, obviously I'm doing a lot of my own takes, but like the basic layout of the world, and like a lot of details and how like you can see I'm using the map as reference, underneath the model as I'm modeling, right? And so like I'm pulling a lot of cues from that map, but it wasn't, Breath of the Wild hadn't come out yet, and I think Breath of the Wild shows us like a really fully fleshed out Hyrule, and so trying to like figure out how to like kind of balance between the two maps, because that's the thing, right? Is like I'm not just trying to do like remix city where I'm like pulling just from a bunch of details from random Zelda games. I believe that Hyrule is all one world, and I think it makes sense to pull from different Zelda games, right? To have elements from Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess and Breath of the Wild, and Skyward Sword, because it's all the same world. And so I think it makes sense. That's what Breath of the Wild does. When it made the world totally cohesive, it borrowed from a lot of different games, right? You can see that littered all throughout the map in the way that things are named, but also the locations that we see are pulled from a lot of different games. And so I think that philosophy totally makes sense. I'm not just trying to conglomerize it all, but I'm trying to be smart in how I pull all the maps together. And that's hard. That's a difficult creative challenge. And I've talked about contradictions geographically throughout the Zelda series. I've talked about that before in videos, but it is a challenge. And I enjoy that. It's a creative challenge. And I thank you all for coming with me along the way. But yeah, I thought the Great Plateau was something that would really make sense within the world of the Wind Waker. And I thought that that's something that, like, just thinking about, like, well, what do I do with this quadrant, right? How do I connect not Needle Rock Isle. It's to the south of Needle Rock Isle. Is it the Diamond Step Isle, I think it's called, where you find the ghost ship chart? So I'm making that one of the mountains of the Great Plateau. I think Needle Rock Isle is like just north of the Great Plateau in my version of the map. But these are all things that I'm thinking about, and because I think that that's the thing, is there's so many iconic islands of the Wind Waker, and I want to make the location in Hyrule where they exist, I want that to be interesting for most of them, right? To try to figure out what I can. I want every quadrant to have something interesting about it, right? And I think the Great Plateau is a great way of adding that to the map. Because, there's so many things you can do with the Lake Hylia kind of region, and I have Outset Island kind of like on its mountains, like its village is kind of like spilling over into the mountainside above the lake. But I think the Great Plateau is a great landmark as well, because of course in Breath of the Wild it's just kind of northwest to Lake Hylia. And so keeping that feature, I think is nice and important. And I've even like made it border the lake a little bit more, but I like it as this kind of border between the lake and the desert, right? I think that it's a really cool kind of geographic landmark, and there's obviously all of this history in it as well with the stonework. And of course, like I'm borrowing from the Tower of the Gods models for the stonework of the wall of the plateau. And so that can start to ask questions about the civilization that created the Tower of the Gods. And, at least in my take on Wind Waker Unflooded, that is also the civilization that is creating the stonework that we see for the Great Plateau, which I just think would be an interesting way of just showing that it's a kingdom-wide civilization. The Tower of the Gods and that tribe that built it, whether it was the Sheikah or the Zonai or whoever you want to theorize that it was, that they weren't localized, right? They were spread throughout the kingdom. I think it would be interesting to imply that. That's something I'm interested in. I'll just talk a little bit about like some of the work that I'm doing in this video. Mainly, it's just topography, working on the geography itself, and just trying to sculpt that, because that's something that like I go about kind of by the seat of my pants in a lot of instances. There's so much about this map that I have in mind, but I really enjoy the emergent creativity that comes from just like sculpting it. And like there's things that I'm like, if I had like done concept art, like I could speed through the modeling. I was like, if I knew exactly the shapes that I wanted. But to me, it's like I really enjoy just kind of figuring it out and going, I don't exactly know how these hills are going to like flow into each other, how these paths are going to connect. I don't quite know when I go in, but then I model and I figure it out and I kind of play with it, and then from there I figure something out, and I enjoy that process. It's very meditative. That's the way that I feel about it, and that's why I continue to do this project. This is a huge passion project, but I don't see it as work. It's something that I'm not, and I put time into it, and I try to make videos regularly, and I want y'all to stay up to date with what I'm doing. But yeah, it's something that I do because I enjoy spending time in this world, in this art style, in these aesthetics, using these textures. I love the art style of the Wind Waker, and Zelda is a series that I care about, and its world building, and its lore, and its timeline, and its geography. Like it's a world that I've fallen in love with so many games. It's a series that is dear to my heart because of its storytelling, especially, but also because of not just like its narrative storytelling, but the storytelling through gameplay, right? I think that's something the Zelda series does really well, is that the narrative is not just the cinematics, it's not just the lore, it's not just the timeline, but there is a narrative through adventure, through like these micro narratives, and through gameplay. And it's empowering to be able to say like, hey, you're a kid, but you can still travel the world and be a hero, and it doesn't matter if people see you as being capable or not being good enough, or you're too small or too young. There's things that you can accomplish if you put your mind to it, and sometimes even that naivety, that perceived naivety, can be a strength, right? That thing where, not to say that you're inexperienced, but if you're, or ignorant even, but if you're willing to face hardships and challenges, and you're not jaded enough to reject those challenges, there's power in that, right? And I think that's the thing about Link, right? His courage, it's sometimes it almost seems like an ignorant courage, but I don't think that that's true. I think he's often someone with experience, and as you travel the world and face dungeon after dungeon after dungeon, you have opportunities where your character could turn back, but you don't. I don't know. I'm just rambling. But the philosophy of Zelda, that's something I'm really interested in, and part of why I do this project is because Wind Waker, like I've talked about the aesthetics of Wind Waker, but it's a game that matters to me in what it has to communicate and its philosophical ideas, and not just the meta narrative, but the micro narratives of gameplay, but also the meta narrative and what it has to say about family, about courage, about the everyman being able to take up the sword and shield. There's things there. There's so much there about living for the present and the future and not feeling chained to the past, especially. There's so much there to unpack. Being able to move on and do something new in the shadow of when you are in the shadow of something bigger than yourself, being able to walk forward and do something new, right? I love what the Wind Waker has to say, and that's part of why I really am inspired by this project. There's so many games that I've fallen in love with, and I love their maps and their world, but I'm not inspired to do a project like this about them. But Wind Waker is something that I think to me it felt like a mission to try to fully realize its world that it didn't really get to fully show us, right? And that's something that I think is to me feels like a task that I feel like is something I'd like to see, and I know that a lot of y'all feel the same way. But I don't know, I'm just kind of rambling, and I don't know, I don't want to sound pretentious, but I am an artiste. I mean, these are things that we think about. If y'all don't know, I'm a filmmaker as well, and so go over to my main channel, link in the description, to check out some of those kinds of projects. I'm really excited to be sharing some new projects with y'all soon as well. I just wrapped up filming a short film. I filmed a couple this summer, but I filmed one in May that is almost ready to come out, and I'll be posting a trailer within the next couple weeks on my main channel. So I'm really excited to hype that up. It's going to be a superhero short film, and I'm just really excited to share that with y'all. So yeah, I mean, just stay tuned. Stay tuned. That's all I can say. Filmmaking is something I really enjoy, and I approach Wind Waker Unflooded as a storyteller as well. In the same way that I write scripts, there is storytelling in the environmental design of this world. And I've talked about this before, but I just want to I know that a lot of people are new to these videos, and if this is the first one you're watching, then I want you to just kind of hear a little bit about my perspective, and I want y'all to understand what the project is and who I am, right? So I don't know. I know that a lot of y'all are also longtime viewers, and I thank you all for watching, and I try not to repeat myself, and I apologize if I have. But anyway, enough of that. I do want to invite y'all, as always, though, to comment down below what new locations you'd like to see me work on in Wind Waker Unflooded, what suggestions y'all have. I really appreciate community feedback. I want this to be something that, as fans, as a community, that we can really take ownership of and feel happy with. Obviously, it is my project, and it's coming from my creative perspective, first and foremost, but it is something that I really value, the feedback from the community at large. That's something that's important to me. But anyway, I think I've rambled for long enough. I'll tell y'all, and maybe just comment down below based on some of these next suggestions, but on my list of things to work on, one of those is Tingle Island, becoming Tingle Mountain, where I want to build a theme park there. One is Stovepipe Isle, right, and modeling that within the world of the Wind Waker. That was something that was concept art from Hyrule Historia. That's something that's on my radar. Also, just other things in Death Mountain, and realizing a new fire temple. I want to build new sage temples for the new sages of the time during this time period. And I think that would be really rewarding. So a new fire temple, I think, could be really cool. Maybe it's built into a kind of forge or something. There's a lot of things left to figure out, but comment down below what y'all think. And without further ado, I'll let you go. Now, if you're looking for other ways to support me, as always, you can support me as a creator by becoming a member on Patreon. There you'll get access to all kinds of exclusive behind-the-scenes content like in-progress outlines, scripts, storyboards, rough cuts, and even soundtracks for my newest films. By becoming a member, you'll also be thanked in the credits for any film I finish during your membership. You can also support me by streaming my music. I compose all of the scores for my own short films, and you can listen to those soundtracks on Spotify, Apple Music, or wherever you listen to music. Just look up Joe Kendrick. That's JoeKendrick. Y'all have a wonderful day, and without further ado, I'll let you go.